For the best prices and service on Pokemon TCG singles and products, check out ccgcastle.com and use promo code Evolutionaries-5 for 5% off your next order.
Hello, Pokemon fans! I'm Professor K for the Pokemon Evolutionaries, and we're back with another Deck Tech Thursday. This week, we're going to be taking a look at a revamped version of Vespiquen. Now, Vespiquen has kind of been a deck that has really changed and evolved with the passage of time and the changes inside of the metagame and inside the format, and I feel like it's got a decent chance again. I don't think it is the absolute strongest play right now, but I still think it's a very good deck, and there's been some changes to it that I think have strengthened it quite a bit. A lot of the credit of this deck is going to go, actually just about every bit of it, is going to go to my buddy Raul Reddy, who belongs to the Chaos Gym. He's already got his World's Invite, and he is a very good Pokemon TCG player. He's topped a lot of events, obviously, to get his invites. Really great guy, and I just want to make sure that I give him the credit for this deck because this is actually a deck that he used, and he's actually very well known for playing Vespiquen. So I want to give a shout out to him. There's going to be a link in the description down below to the Chaos Gym, so you guys can check them out as well. Good competitive channel. Like I said, really great dude. So shout out to him for that. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at this version of Vespiquen that can hold its own in the current meta. So first and foremost, we have obviously our main attacker, the first form of our main attacker, I should say. We've got 4 copies of Combee, pretty much it's just a Combee. I mean, it really has a tough matchup against things like Decidueye, especially if Decidueye sets up first. If you set up first, maybe not so much, but it can give you a problem. So we have 4 copies of Combee because it is our main attacker. We got to have a 4/4 line. And that means we've got 4 copies of Vespiquen. The main attack you're going to focus on here is Be Revenge. It does 20 damage, plus it does 10 more damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile. So right off the bat, you can pretty much guess this is a very Pokemon-heavy deck. You got to be able to deal tons and tons of damage. As a matter of fact, there are a grand total of 28 Pokemon in this deck. That way, you can deal a lot of damage. If you're down to your last Vespiquen, you can hit as hard as 280, obviously because you can't have a Vespiquen and a Combee in there. But if you have 26 Pokemon in the discard pile, plus 20, you're dealing 280 damage, and that's knocking out pretty much everything at this point, except for, I think, oh no, it knocks that out too. Weakness, never mind. Yes, it does. It knocks out everything in the game. So that is your main attacker. Grass has so much support right now. It's very resilient, and even though you only have 4 copies of a low HP Pokemon, you're able to get them back with, well, cards you'll see here in a minute. So to make this deck even better, we're going to play it with Eeveelutions. We've got 2 copies of Energy Evolution Eevee. No particular reason other than it's just a good Eevee. You can also draw a card if you're really, really desperate to attack for a colorless energy. 60 HP, this is the one from Sun and Moon base. And we have a few options here. We're not going to be using all of them at the same time because there's only 2 Eevees here, but we have 3 of these. We've got 1 Jolteon, 1 Vaporeon, and 1 Flareon. The reason for that is Flareon has an ability called Flare Effect. It turns all Stage 1 Pokemon into an additional fire typing as well as what they are currently. Same thing goes for Vaporeon. It's got Aqua Effect, turning all Stage 1s into water type as well as their current typing. We also have Jolteon, which turns Electric Effect, gives it a lightning typing as well as whatever it is. So at any given point, Vespiquen can be Grass and Fire, or Grass and Water, or Grass and Lightning, or it could also be Grass, Fire, and Water, or it could be Grass, Fire, and Electric, or Grass, Water, and Electric. I mean, there's so many combinations. You're hitting things for weakness. That's the main point in this. And as long as there's not like a Hex Maniac being played or Garb in play, you're able to have multiple typings to hit for weakness. Obviously, Flareon is going to be strong against things like Decidueye and Vileplume and other Vespiquen decks, but let's face it, I mean, this is such a hard-hitting deck, it really doesn't need that, but you're knocking out things for weakness with Flareon on grass Pokemon. For Vaporeon, you're going to hit weakness on things like Volcanion. Volcanion is still a thing, so that's important. And then Jolteon, you're going to be able to hit for weakness on Yveltals. You're going to be able to hit for weakness on Lugias. You're going to be able to hit for weakness on Shaymins. So it's kind of nice to do that. I mean, obviously your toughest matchup is probably going to be the dark decks, but you're just going to gonna want to try to target their Shaymans. That's really the goal here. Or get their Hoopa up and stall them while you're setting up and, you know, dealing tons of damage. You can knock out a Hoopa and 2 Shaymin for the game. That's really your best move against that particular matchup. And Decidueye, again, you can knock out with Flareon. So as long as they're not dealing Feather Arrow damage to your Combees alone right off the bat, you should be okay in that matchup as well. It's definitely closer though. Now, not only do we have Vespiquen as an attacker, but we also have a secondary attacker that's also a Stage 1 Pokemon, and it's actually really good against things like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, you can also hit for weakness on Mega Rayquaza. That's still a thing too with Jolteon. Now, speaking of Mega Rayquaza, this is where we get something good out of this as well. We've got 2 copies of Zora here from Breakthrough. Doesn't really matter which one you use, but Whiny Voice and Dark Edge is the one that's I've seen being used the most for whatever reason. I mean, you can't attack with it anyways, no matter what. But our main point here is that we're trying to get to Zoroark, 100 HP. The ability stand in once during a turn before you attack. If this Pokemon is on your bench, you may switch this Pokemon with your active Pokemon. So this pretty much gives free retreat to anything because you're going to be standing in and you can put a Float Stone on here and retreat. So no matter what, you always have a way to stand in and retreat as long as Garb or Hex are not being played. And it's got a great attack as well. Mind Jack does 10 damage, plus it does 30 more damage for each of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So if your opponent has 3 benched Pokemon, you're dealing 100 damage. And if you have Jolteon, Vaporeon, or Flareon out, it also deals at additional typing and could potentially make it 200 damage. So Mega Rayquaza only has to have 4 benched Pokemon for you to take a knockout on a Mega Ray. It's pretty powerful. So Zoroark is a great secondary attacker in that sense. Another good thing is we have a wall if we have to hide. We've got 1 Tauros GX, 180 HP. It's got 3 attacks. Rage, which does 20 damage, plus it does 10 more for each damage counter on this Pokemon. Horn Attack for 60, and Mad Bull GX, 30 damage, times 30 for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So this is our GX attacker for the game, and it can deal lots of damage. We're already using double colorless energy, so it just makes sense to have Tauros in here as a wall. You're going to let your opponent hit into it, and you're going to swing for lots and lots of damage if you can't get your Vespiquens or your Zoroark set up properly. It's just a good Pokemon to hide behind. Now, we're going to get into some more Pokemon here. We've got 4 copies of Unknown from Ancient Origins. The main purpose for this card is Farewell Letter. Once during your turn before you attack, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may discard this Pokemon and all cards attached to it, and it does not count as a knockout. If you do, draw a card. So this is extra draw support. You get to draw 1 card, and you're fueling your attacks for Vespiquen. Another nice thing behind that is that you can also play these 2 copies of Klefki and use the ability Wonderlock. Now, I'm actually going to hold this here so I can read it to you guys. Once during a turn before you attack, if this Pokemon is on your bench, you may discard all cards attached to this Pokemon and then attach it to one of your Pokemon as a Pokemon tool card. So this card becomes a tool card. Prevent any damage done to the Pokemon this card is attached to by attacks from your opponent's Mega Evolution Pokemon. If this card is attached to a Pokemon, discard this card at the end of your opponent's turn. So you can use this in a few ways. You can attach it to a Vespiquen or whatever you want against, say, like a Mega Mewtwo deck, and they cannot hurt that Pokemon. Also, another nifty thing is, put it down on the bench. Say you got an Unknown here. Put it down on the bench. You can then take that ability, attach it to Unknown as a tool card. Then you can activate Farewell Letter, and guess what? Both these Pokemon in the discard pile, powering up Vespiquen's attack even more. So it's a pretty commonly known combination tactic to make that work. But you're not only going to discard these 2 Pokemon that way, you're also going to get to draw the card for extra support. So that's always really nice. All right. Also, we have, for more draw support, 3 copies of Shaymin EX. Now, at any given point, you really don't want to have to bench more than 1 Shaymin per game, but the other 2 are there just in case you need to really just dig and draw into stuff to save yourself if you happen to be in a tight spot. And you can also use these as discard fodder for your Vespiquen's attacks. So, setup ability, when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you may draw cards until you have 6 in your hand. Everyone knows what Shaymin does. Obviously, it's an expensive card. I know. But it's kind of imperative for Vespiquen to get that extra draw support. You want to burn through a lot of your deck in the first couple turns of the game. So one final Pokemon we have here is Mew EX. Now this card is still legal thanks to a promo from the, there was a box, it was like a Generations box, Mew and Mewtwo Super Premium Collection box. and it's a reprint. So this card is now legal even though it's from Legendary Treasures. It's got the ability Versatile. Now, Versatile says, this Pokemon can use the attacks of any Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's. You still need the energy required to use this attack, or use it as an attack. So with this one, it is an ability, so if someone's playing Garb or Hex, you won't be able to use Versatile. But if abilities are in play, you can take the double colorless energy that's in this deck, and you can use Be Revenge, Intelligence Gathering, Quick Draw, Mind Jack, Rage, Horn Attack, Mad Bull GX, or Sky Return. You can use any of these attacks. It's a one-of, just in case you're running out of resources, or if you just need to hit Mega Mewtwo for weakness. This does it. It's a Psychic type, so it's going to be dealing Psychic damage. You're able to hit Mega Mewtwo for weakness, it's pretty good. So this is your Pokemon lineup, 28 Pokemon. Now we're gonna move on to our items and trainer, or so to say, our items, supporters, and stadiums. So our trainer cards, we have. Now, before I get into this, you have to understand, I was in a bit of a rush to build the deck. I took my Zygarde deck apart that was already blinged out. So I'm sorry, this deck is blinged out as far as items and supporters and all that stuff. So I apologize in advance, but here you go. 4 copies of Professor Sycamore, discard your hand, draw 7 cards. Again, this was like the most readily available thing, so I know, the bling is hard to look at or whatever. Sorry. I normally try to use basic cards, but this was just what was readily available, and I didn't feel like digging through my piles and stacks for other ones, so. We also have 2 copies of N, where you and your opponent both shuffle your hands into your decks and draw as many cards as you have prize cards remaining. Everyone knows what N does at this point. Also, we have 2 copies of Lysander. Switch one of your opponent's benched Pokemon with one of his or her, switched one of your opponent's benched Pokemon with his or her active Pokemon. I don't know why I always stumble when I'm trying to say that, but Lysander, obviously a great card. You're gonna wanna bring up things to hit for 2 prizes. The prize exchange is what wins you this game, dealing damage to knock out a Pokemon that gives you 2 prizes, where they are only taking 1 prize. Or potentially 2 with these cards, but for the most part, it's 1 prize. All right, that is it for supporters. Let's move on to our items. We've got 4 copies of VS Seeker. Put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. Again, I know. I can already see the comments section on it, but it is what it is. Yes, I do have them, and I like to play blinged out cards at tournaments, and I never took my deck apart from the meta deck open, so this is what I have. Also, we have, 4 Ultra Ball. Discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do, search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle your deck afterward. Again, sorry, but it was the easiest thing available. There we go. All right, we also have 4 copies of Acrobike. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck and put one of them into your hand, discard the other card. Very handy if you happen to have a Pokemon and something else you need. You can discard the Pokemon, power up Vespiquen, and put a card you need into your hand. That's the way you want to have this card work for you, ideally. Doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you get double colorless energy and you're like, well, shoot. But it's there anyways for extra draw support. 2 copies of Floatstone. Ideally, the main targets for these are going to be Zoroark and probably Tauros. Anything else at this point, you really don't want to waste your Floatstone on. Vespiquen already has free retreat. Jolteon has free retreat. I guess if you had no choice, you could attach it to Vaporeon, Flareon, or Eevee. And also Unknown. If you start Unknown, you're definitely going to want to do Floatstone on that. Same goes for Klefki. So, there you go. 2 copies of Floatstone. We also have 2 copies of Revitalizer. Put 2 grass Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand. This is where you're going to recycle your Vespiquens. If you have to discard them or if they get knocked out, you're able to put them back into your hand and reuse them. Also, in a deck that plays strictly double colorless energy, you're going to want to have 2 copies of Special Charge. Shuffle 2 special energy cards from your discard pile into your deck. Enhanced Hammer's a thing. It hurts. Losing a double colorless energy hurts, so you want to get them back in the deck as much as you possibly can. We also have 2 copies of Forest of Giant Plants because going second kind of sucks with this deck without this card. Being able to evolve straight away into Vespiquen and start dealing damage is how you're going to win your games when you don't win the coin flip. So just keep that in mind. Each player's grass Pokemon can evolve during his or her Pokemon, each player's grass Pokemon can evolve during his or her first turn or the turn he or she plays those Pokemon. There we go. We also have 4 copies of Double Colorless Energy. This is the entire energy line for the deck. It works for all the attacks that you see here that are double colorless. Be Revenge, I guess Intelligence Gathering, Quick Draw, Mind Jack, Rage, Horn Attack, Mad Bull GX, and Sky Return. So everything that I just mentioned can be covered with double colorless energy. You can attach it to Mew and use any of them. You can attach it to Vespiquen for Be Revenge, Mind Jack, and all the stuff on Tauros. So that is the deck, guys. Again, I don't know where it typically will stand up in a tournament. In an event that runs a lot of Mega Mewtwo, I guess this deck should be pretty good. Darkrai, I said, is probably going to be its biggest trouble. Decidueye can be trouble, but if you play the game right and you don't have really bad draws, it's definitely got a good matchup against that, thanks to Flareon. If they get a turn 1 Vileplume, it hurts a lot. So, you know, you just have your good matchups and your bad matchups. You just have to kind of get an idea of what you expect to see more of and kind of just pick your poison from there, so to speak. I like the deck. I'm actually considering it for Virginia. I don't know if I'm going to take it or not. I might switch it out. I don't know. But it's a deck that I'm considering. And again, big thanks to Raul for building it. And go check out his channel because this is his deck profile. So go check it out. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure you guys stay tuned next Friday, not tomorrow, next Friday, for Battle Frontier Friday, where this goes against whatever N decides to build. We are kind of running out of ideas, so hopefully he comes up with something good. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today. We will see you guys tomorrow. You all take care. Have a great day.